What would you give up for $1 million? Would you give up the next year for $1 million? Would you do it? And a lot of people are like, yes. And they're like, how happy would you be if you got $1 million just handed to you, tomorrow when you wake up? They're like, I'd be so happy. What if you got 10 million? Even more happy, right? What if you got $1 billion tomorrow, right? I would be the happiest man on planet. And then they're like, what if you don't wake up at all?
Welcome to another episode of That Changed My Life, a podcast where real people share their personal stories of transformative moments that altered the course of their lives. In each episode, we'll dive into the personal stories of individuals who have experienced transformative events that shifted their perspectives, sparked newfound passions, or led them on unexpected paths. From life-altering decisions to chance encounters, our guests will candidly share their journeys of transformation, growth, and self-discovery. I am your host, Alex Lovely, a real estate investor and life coach on a mission to discover the extraordinary ways in which our lives can be forever transformed by a single moment. Hey, Sujay, what's up, brother? Welcome to the That Changed My Life podcast. And just super excited that you're here. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come join me.
No, absolutely, man. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. I want the audience really to get a sense of who you are on top of, the accolades and the things that you've achieved in your life. So a lot of this podcast and this call right here is to share with the speaker and get people to know who you are, and then deeper on top of all the things that you've accomplished. So I personally know that you are amazing, and I just want to take this opportunity to share it with the world. So I can like I always do, I can always share your accolades and stuff, but I want you to tell the world who you are, what you represent, what's important to you. And don't forget to share your accomplishments. I know you never like to do that, but I'm always gonna force you and push you to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And you've put me on the spot a few times to share my accolades, and I hate doing so because I always say like that doesn't define who we are. But again, it provides some sort of recognition for who the person is talking to or who the audience is listening to. So I'll start out by saying that, I'm in real estate, specifically in the hospitality industry, which basically means hotels. And so I'm in the hotel industry. We franchise with brands like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, Choice, Wyndham, Best Western, and the list goes on. So we're franchisees of these hotels. I know we've been hearing a lot about these boutique hotels, but that's not what our niche is. Our niche is with these franchise brands, and the brands bring a lot of loyalty. So right now we have about 11 in the portfolio, 2 more under construction, and a couple more that we have offers out. We're always doing transactions. So that's kind of our portfolio, what we've created, over 130 million in assets in the hotel space. We also invest in other types of real estate, but sometimes we do that more of a passive investment. So we invest in multifamily, obviously residential homes, Airbnb, that kind of stuff. I mean, all those asset classes are great as well. But primarily for us, we focus in the hospitality space. We're owners, operators. We do acquisitions, we do development, ground up construction, all of that. So.
Okay, so why hotels? Let's just go right into this. Why hotels? I know we have this conversation all the time, but why hotels?
Yeah, absolutely. So hotels provides a lot of cash flow, and one of the things I always say is hotels is a business plus real estate. And so the business component allows you to have that active cash flow every single day. And so, when we're thinking about syndications, for example, we're able to provide really good and competitive pref returns while also being able to take care of ourselves. So it makes great investments for syndications, as well as if you didn't want to syndicate, if you wanted to keep it in the portfolio for a long time, which is something else that we also do. you have that cash flow that's coming in every single year, and a very strong cash flow at that. So typically we look for about a 12% cash on cash return when making a hotel investment. And then on
Wow,
top of
that's
that,
awesome.
yeah, it's wonderful. And on top of that, you're building, equity. So your debt service coverage ratio is strong, and so you're able to do a permanent mortgage on the property, amortize over 25, 30 years, and you're paying down that debt every single month, which is another maybe, you don't see that cash flow, but that's still income. And at exit, whether it's 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years, when you exit the property, you get to cash out on all of that equity that you've built. Plus, real estate appreciates over time. So just like your single family home or your primary residence, after 10 years, hopefully the value of that is going to go up as real estate appreciates. It goes with inflation, those kinds of things. And so when we sell or exit the hotel space in 5, 7, 10 years, we also capture that appreciation. So overall, it makes for a great investment. And one of the drawbacks, and I know, Alex, you're going to ask me, why not invest in hotels? And one of his favorite questions. So, one of the drawbacks is it is a business. So there's that operational component to it. There are ways to get around it. You can hire a third-party management company, similar to you would with multifamily or other asset classes, even Airbnbs. Or your residential property, there's property management companies you can hire. So similarly, you could do that with hotels. But our model is to operate them, and we have our own management company now, and it allows for good layers, allows us to really manage the assets and optimize the efficiency and optimize our bottom line. So,
Awesome. Okay, you are young. How old are you,
I'm 31.
bro? So you're 31. That's going to be an inspiration for people that are watching this, because they could be older or they could be younger, but at the age of 31, when did you get started?
Yeah, so I got started, I think, when I was 25. 2017 was when I got started.
So in 6 years you were able to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty fast. That's pretty fast. And if I think about my life, 6 years down the road, adding $130 million of real estate to my portfolio, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So how did you get into it? What were some challenges, and what did you have to overcome to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something, Alex, we talked about earlier this week, is when I started, I didn't even know what ROI was. I remember sitting there with my first P&L. I was trying to do an acquisition, and I was like, someone asked me, they're like, what would the return be? And I'm like, oh, like a couple 100,000. And I had no idea, right? I didn't know what ROI was. I didn't know how to calculate it. I come from a science background, so I was a neuroscience major. I didn't necessarily want to be a doctor, but I was told that I needed to be a doctor my whole life. And that's the path I kind of followed. But my family was in business, and my dad was, he was an entrepreneur. And so I was always around the conversations. I was always exposed to entrepreneurship and, just thinking along that line of, making your money work for you, and, how to set up these building blocks for the future. And so it was always around that kind of environment, which really pushed me, I think, to follow entrepreneurship and leave the medicine line that I had chosen. So again, didn't know what ROI was, didn't know what it meant for development, but really I just took a step. And something I was thinking about earlier, right before this call, was, what's the biggest thing that holds us back? And I was thinking fear, right? Fear is what I've been thinking until now. But today I was thinking about it, and I think it's almost dreams. We have these dreams, and we keep them as dreams. And the dreams hold us back because if you try and you fail and you're not able to get there, then now all of a sudden that dream is unattainable, or you realize that you can't have that anymore, right? And so sometimes I think that we have these dreams, and we have these visions of where we want to be, and we just want to keep them there. We don't want to start taking those steps. And you get to Mount Everest, and you decide you want to climb Mount Everest, and then you look up at the mountain, and you're thinking, how can I ever get there, right? And sometimes you have to break it down and just say, okay, I'm going to get here first, then I'm gonna get here, then I'm gonna get here, and that's really all it was. It was breaking it down and understanding that, you know what, like I just need to get my foot in the door. I need to get one brand. As soon as I do that, with social media and all the platforms that we have today, I mean, you can easily leverage that into the next one, into the next one, into the next one. And raising capital for your first deal is always the hardest. Once you do it once, it's rinse and repeat. And the first million is the hardest. After that, 2, 3, 4, 5 million, it's not that bad, right? Like you can make a couple phone calls. Even the people who invested the first million with you, they'll make calls for you. They'll tell their friends, and it just becomes a lot easier after you do the first one. But the biggest thing is take that first step. And what I did was I leveraged partners or relationships with people who did understand that space. So whether that's my dad or my uncle or my family friend, whoever it may be, anyone who I know that understands that space, align yourself with them. And Alex, I know you do a wonderful coaching program. You're setting up this platform for people to learn, and that's what it's about, right? So everyone who's listening to this, you're already doing that. You're taking that first step, and don't be afraid to collaborate. Don't be afraid to partner with people and learn from them, so that way you can go out and do it yourself the next time, right? So, create win-win-win situations. Partner with people who might understand a little bit more, or who might have expertise in a place that's your weakness, and then you can build upon that and get rolling. So, my first deal had no hotel experience. I didn't know how to run a hotel. I didn't have any, brand recognition. Nobody at the brands knew who I was. And, now when we're doing a new build, I can call up, my guys at Hilton, Marriott, or Hyatt, or wherever, and they'll jump on an opportunity with us. So
Yeah. Okay. So first deal that you got into, where were you financially? Like what?
my first deal I got into, I made I made $30,000 a year when I decided to do my first deal. So I didn't
Okay,
have.
that's probably below what most people are making. So there's
Yeah.
hope for everybody that's watching. If you want to get into the hotel business, you can do it. That's awesome. So give us more. Give us more. Like I want more towards the beginning. Like for somebody that's just like, is this a possibility for me? Then what?
So I did not have any savings. I had started another business, which was I opened up addiction rehab facilities, and at the time I was only drawing out about 30,000 a year from it. Didn't have any savings. I lived with my parents, so my expenses were minimal, but I wasn't making too much, and I didn't have a lot of savings. So what I did was I raised capital for my first deal. I found a piece of land. I was just driving through, and I knew, because my dad, once I decided that I wanted to go into business, I had the long vision instilled in me, from my father, and he made sure that I didn't get a job. So I had a college degree. I could have gotten a job, probably could have made a little bit more than I was making at the time. But he's like, no, because once you do that, you fall into this like sense of security. You have that 9 to 5, you have that W-2 income coming in, and it's hard to step away from that and take that risk when you have that security, that thing that's to fall back on. And so
It's a
he said,
false sense,
what?
actually.
What was that?
It's a false sense of security. It's actually
Yeah,
just a crap. Yeah.
exactly. But in your head, you become so structured, and every other Friday you're gonna get that paycheck, which doesn't happen in business, right? So many times I had to say no to my friends who were taking a trip to Vegas or overseas, and they're like, come on man, it'll be fun. And we've been a couple years out of college at this point, and they're making good money and they want to take these trips, and I couldn't. I had to sacrifice, thinking of the long game. And so anyway, going back to the story, so we were driving around, I found a piece of land that I loved, and I thought to myself, what can I do here? And it was right off the exit, great frontage off the highway, and I thought, hotel, what could be better than a hotel right here? And so I started calling up the brands, and of course, because the brands have to respect the people that already have assets in that market. I called Hilton. They said, we're super interested in doing something here. Let us check with our other franchisees in the area first if they're okay with it. And obviously people blocked us out, and so we couldn't get that. So we kept going down the list. We started calling these franchises, and finally we found IHG, which is Holiday Inn, and they jumped on the opportunity with us. They gave us the license, and right away.
Know to do that though? How did you know to do that? Like, I want to get into hotels and I just see a piece of land. And how did you know that you were going to start reaching out to these brands? Like, did you have somebody to guide you at least in this business?
I partnered with a couple people who had experience in the hotel industry and had experience with brands, and so they came in as partners, but I was the one who was kind of running the show. So I was the one who was making the decisions, that kind of stuff. But they were there to guide me every step of the way. When I had questions, I would call them. And this was first development project, so I don't own or operate a hotel yet. And
You're
right
making
away,
30,000 a year.
I jumped into development, right? And I'm not gonna, like, I was smart, right? So I was smart. I was able to think through things. I was able to conceptualize stuff, and I called up these guys, and I used them as guides for me. And we got in. We built our first hotel, just like that. And so they told me, hey, these are the brands. I educated myself. I used Google and YouTube and all these things, and I understood which brands brought which value, like what value, how many loyalty customers each brands have. I did my research on all of that, and I stumbled upon IHG that way, and they were actually launching a brand new flag. So Holiday Inn is their most recognizable a brand, and I don't know if it's because there's so many of them or because of the song, right? Chilling at the Holiday Inn.
I was about to
I don't
say
know.
that.
I don't know why, but IHG is actually the umbrella corporation for that brand. Just like Hilton owns Hampton, or Hilton Garden Inn, or Marriott owns Fairfield Inn, or JW. Just like that, IHG is the franchise that owns the Holiday Inn flag, and they launched a new brand. It was called the Avid Hotel. So we were one of the first ones in Ohio, one of the first, I think, like 20 built in America. And so new space for everyone. There weren't a lot of these hotels out. And, Alex, I'm sure you still probably haven't heard of the Avid Hotel.
No.
Yeah. So it had a little bit of a different prototype to it and things like that. But yeah, my first project was the development project, and it was a lot of learning as we go. And that development took us about 3 years to complete. Where
Wait, so your first project took 3 years. You've been in the game for 6 years.
Yeah.
So the first 3 years was one.
Yeah. Well,
And
so while that was building, we went ahead and started doing acquisitions as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started doing
And
acquisitions.
still under the guidance of somebody.
Yeah, I partnered, and then now I don't partner now. I do it myself. But the first one was actually the first acquisition. It was more of a consulting thing. So didn't have a partner, but it was a consulting thing. So the first hotel was completely mine. Took a hard money loan out for the down payment. It was a personal loan. I didn't even syndicate that one. I just took a personal loan, and we put $1 million together and bought that hotel. So
Can I still buy a hotel with $1 million right now?
you can,
I
and
will.
that's where I recommend to start. Is that $4 or $5 million range is the kind of properties that if somebody was starting, I would say that's where you want to go out and filter. So when you go to all of our hotel sites, brokerages, and you have those filters, I want you to put under 6 million, because if it's 5.1, you don't want it to filter out. So under 6 million, but really look for around that $4 or $5 million range, because when you get to the 1 or 2 million, you don't have the revenue to support having a manager on site and the staff. But when you get to the 4 or 5 million, you're now at like maybe a 70 room hotel or 75 room, Quality Inn or a Best Western or a Choice hotel. You're kind of playing in that range, and you can afford having a full-time general manager that will kind of take away that operational pressure off of you. So that's what I recommend, and that's where my first acquisition was. I mean, but that property now is worth at close to $7 million. But
Wow,
it is
that's
what it
awesome.
is. So
Okay, so in such a short span, you were able to do that for somebody again, brand new. I mean, now, I mean, you know what you know now. What would you recommend for somebody brand new now?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing, and there's something called buyer's remorse. So that's as soon as you get in contract and it's non-refundable and you're past that due diligence period, the first thought that comes is, oh, crap, right? It's what did I just do? Am I gonna lose everything? Oh my God, like did I make a mistake? And it happens all the time. Sometimes it still happens to me, and it's almost good because it makes you check yourself and rethink and push you to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? It's always good to have that a little bit, but I had that a lot, I got into contract and I put an LOI. As soon as I put an LOI, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But don't be afraid. Trust your numbers, educate yourself, trust yourself, and then just get started. So start calling
And the right
brokers.
mentor, right leadership, right information, all of that is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that mitigates that risk factor, right? Aligning
Yeah.
yourself like I have a couple students right now and we're underwriting deals together. Every single day we underwrite a few deals. They bring them to me. I have a pro forma, they plug and chug, we go through it, and we trust our numbers and we've looked at maybe 10 deals this week already and we've said no 10 times because we trust our numbers but
Mm.
when we do find that deal that's a yes, you go. You start running with it, right? And don't be afraid to call the brokers. Don't be afraid to call, sellers if you can get in direct contact with somebody and start talking to them. Have that conversation. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, but I don't know anything about hotels." Well, guess what? I didn't either. So start making those calls. You'll know what you don't know only when you get started. So when you call a broker and they ask you, what are you looking for? What brands are you looking for? That's when you realize, oh shoot, I don't even know the brand names, right? So
Like,
then
get
you'll
through
go
those
back,
things quickly.
yeah, you'll go back and do research and learn it again. And so one of my favorite quotes is like from Socrates, and he always said,
Okay.
"I know what I don't know," right? So I know one thing, I know what I don't know. So you only know that
I
once
know
you
that I don't know.
right. And
Yeah.
and you can only do that once you jump in, right?
Yeah.
Once you jump into the water, the ocean, and you expose yourself, you'll get better at it every single time. And now all of a sudden, then there's the lending aspect, right? So you go to these banks and you ask for a loan, and they ask you questions back, and you have no idea what you're talking about. I remember my first time, they asked me, "Can you create a pro forma for what you think is going to happen in the next 5 years?" I was like, yo, I don't know how to create a pro forma. So I asked them to send me a pro forma from another. I was like, yeah, I mean, obviously we know that this thing is it's gonna work. It's gonna be a good deal. What exactly are you looking for? Can you send me an example of what you're looking for so that way, we can create something to satisfy the bank. And so they sent me something. I just, changed up the numbers. But whatever, you learn as you go.
That's
And
great.
now, when a bank asks me, I mean, it's all ready, right? It's all part of our underwriting process,
Yeah.
and we have our
How
system.
do you get how did you get your first loan? I mean, this is another question people get. You got to somebody got to sign on to the loan. They
Yeah,
require experience. They require net worth. I mean, you were making $30,000 a year. So,
yeah,
what did you have to do to get your first loan?
yeah. So my first loan, we actually got a cosigner on it,
Ah,
and because hotels are a business, we can. And I know you're familiar with this, Alex, but we can get an SBA loan, so Small Business Administration loan. So that helps mitigate the risk for the actual bank, the first lien holding bank, because the SBA comes in and they provide another, 10% or 15% of the loan. Actually, I think it's 20%. So they provide another 20% of the total loan as non-recourse debt. So it mitigates the risk for the bank, the regional bank, or whoever it may be. And then I had a cosigner come and cosign on that, and we can give them a fee and those kinds of things. So there's creative financing structures that we can implement. Seller financing is another big one. So especially when you're in that $4 or $5 million range, a lot of sellers will offer seller financing, and there's ways to sell that, right? So one of the things I always say is, listen, man, you're gonna make so much money. You've had this hotel for 15 years. You have so much equity built up. I mean, you're gonna get spanked by taxes, right? So, why don't you give me seller financing for 2 years or 3 years, and I'll pay you back first. I'll pay you back, 50% of the profit first, or whatever. You can structure it. But at least now you can spread out that gain over 2-3 years, and you don't have all of that gain in your first year where you're going to pay, you're going to be in the 40% bracket or whatever. And so there's ways to sell it. There's ways to negotiate. There's ways to get it. And that's the thing, right? Like, we've done so many transactions now that I understand all of this lingo. So, you definitely want to align yourself with someone who does understand, whoever you feel comfortable with, but someone who understands. And at the end of the day, real estate is real estate. So whether you're buying a hotel or multifamily, the underwriting process is very similar. The fundamentals are similar. You put in money and you get back a return. I mean, that's what it is, right? So it's very similar to other asset classes. So even, a lot of times, like, I listen to guys like you, Alex, or other, multifamily giants or short-term rental giants, and I'm always learning. So I'm always a student of the game, and we're always learning new ways to get financing or get deals done, or get creative with it. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So no doubt you're an expert in this field. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, maybe I should just get into the hotel business now. I really just want to do something with you, and I know we're looking. Hopefully, we'll get some hotels done in the near future. So I want now the audience to get to know a little bit more about you. I know there's a journey, there's all these things, there's this stuff. So I wrote down some questions for myself, so I remember. Um, what gets you excited about life? Like, what has you wake up in the morning like, okay, I'm excited. Today's a good day to be awake.
yeah, it's so cool because I was listening to something recently, and someone asked, if you could, what would you give up for $1 million, right? Like, would you give up, the next, if you could give up the next year for $1 million, would you do it? And a lot of people are like, yes. And then they're like, how happy would you be if you got $1 million just handed to you, tomorrow when you wake up? And they're like, I'd be so happy. What if you got 10 million? Even more happy, right? What if you got $1 billion tomorrow, right? I would be the happiest man on the planet. And then they're like, what if you don't wake up at all, right? And they're like, no, I wouldn't take that then, right? And so, at the end of the day, like, the way you even pose that question, when you wake up in the morning, the first, and I like to meditate a lot and think to myself and introspect. And so, like, the first thing I do when I wake up is I like to think about that. And it's, me waking up today, it's worth more than $1 billion, right? And so it's
Wow.
already a good day. As soon as you open your eyes, it's already a good day. And, like, to have that feeling to start off your day like that, especially in business, we have so many things that are happening, and your emails are already there, and texts from all these people, right? There's always something, and yesterday's problems carry on to today. But to have that moment where you step back and you think like that, that makes every day a good day. And that's what keeps me going. That's
Dude,
what
I
makes
freaking love that. I think you just changed my day and changed my life with that. So
yeah. Yeah,
I hope
no,
the listeners made it to this point because that was gold right there.
I appreciate that. But yeah, and then the other thing is, like, last time we were on a call together, is you asked what are you grateful for today? And I thought that was so cool because there's a science to gratefulness. There truly is. And when you're grateful in your life, I think you'll automatically find passion in life and happiness in life, even for the small things. And one of the things that always motivates me is that if Grant Cardone and all these, like, big guys in real estate, if they can do it, so can I, because they have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 ears, and I have the exact same thing. There's nothing that they had that I don't. So it's, like, when you're grateful, you can even start thinking like that, and it changes your perspective. Is like, I'm grateful that I have, 2 working hands, or I'm grateful that I have a support system like I do, or I'm grateful for, my wife and my parents and, all the other people that I love in my life. So, but yeah.
Nice. That's I totally believe it. This is one of the shirts I always wear. Gratitude,
Oh
grateful
wow.
attitude. Actually, two T's in here. Um, Now, we are all influenced by people in our lives, regardless if we seek after them or they've just done something great that we admire. So, who are some heroes in your life, both when you were young and now?
Ooh. Okay. So I have three heroes in my life, um,
Mhm.
and I'll go into detail more on two of them. And so the first one is my dad. My dad, he motivated me. He pushed me my entire life. I remember I was a big sports guy, always like growing up. I loved playing sports, and football was one of my dreams. And I remember waking up and going to like our spiritual thing on Sunday morning, and I remember I was 14, and I was thinking to myself, man, how am I still gonna go to, we'll call it church, just easy to
Mhm.
recognize it. How am I gonna go to church or my Sunday school when I'm playing on NFL Sundays, right? Like that, I had this dilemma when I was like 14 years old, and there's no Indian person that plays in the NFL, right? We're all small, scrawny kids. But my dad was like, "You decide right now. Like, do you want to play professional football? If you do, then I'm gonna tell you to stop studying. I'm gonna tell you to stop everything and just focus on that." And he was kind of joking, but kind of serious, because he wanted me to study and stop playing games all day, right? So he wanted me and he's like, if you're not gonna do that, and if you're not gonna put in 7 to 10 hours a day working on that craft, then you need to study, because that's your future. And so you need to focus. And that was the one big thing that my dad always taught me. And then the second thing was just becoming a people person, and the personality. And he has a radiating personality, and I really learned a lot from the way he works with people and talks to people and gives love to people. So dad, definitely one of my heroes. Number two, Kobe Bryant.
I
uh
knew it.
Kobe, I'm Mamba all day, every day. So Kobe, like, more than just basketball, like, inspired me. I remember every exam I would take in college, I would wear a Kobe jersey under my sweatshirt or under my t-shirt, whatever it may be. But it was,
Wow.
like 2-4 on your shirt, you could do anything. Um, so Mamba mentality. He said one thing which I kind of alluded to a couple days ago with you, Alex, but it was outwork yourself every single day. And I was always a very competitive kid, but it was to compete at the expense of others. So I wanted to beat you. Like, that was my motivation. But then Kobe like shifted my mindset, and it was compete with yourself. You need to beat yourself every single day. And if this is your potential, the true competition is, can I get here? Like, can I outwork my own potential? Like, how sick is that, right? And so every day when I look at myself in the mirror, I ask myself, am I better today than I was yesterday? So, in every aspect. So, like, career, spiritual,
Wow.
personal, all those kinds of things. And that's part of that, like, whole, like, meditating process is, like, thinking like that. And Kobe Bryant inspired that in me. And then the last one, is a man, Bandurang Atavle, and he's kind of like my spiritual guide and my role model. And he started this school that I went to, and really made me rethink my purpose in life, and inspired me to want more, right? And made me realize that I'm not gonna take my money or my Lulu pants that I love so much. Like, I'm not gonna take those things on to my next life, right? Or my Porsche. Like, that stuff's not gonna come with me afterwards. And there's a poem called Death the Leveler, and it basically says, like, at the end of the day, like, we're all gonna decompose into soil. And so all
Mm.
those things, material things that we have, it doesn't translate to anything more, right? And it's fun. I'm not saying it's not great. Like, I have all those, I indulge in all those desires. But the things that we do, and the way we treat people, and the way we live our life, and the impact that we make, that stuff translates, and that stuff carries on with our soul into the next life. And whatever philosophy you believe in. But I'm pretty sure most philosophies believe in the action and the qualities and what you do. And we believe in karma, obviously. So those kinds of things. But he's the guy that inspired me to think. And we talk more about him on like a personal level. So
Yeah, definitely. So, we are starting to come to the end of this podcast. So I do want to, ask just a couple more questions, which you can elaborate into. Um, let's see, what are some of the good ones here? What's a single best trait that you think you have?
the single best.
Trying to stump you right now.
I know, man. I'm debating between the fact that I never give up, or just I think coming back to that like mama mentality is always like pushing myself. I will, if I put my mind to something, I'll get it done. If I'll find a way and I'll get it done. So if I put my mind that, hey, we're gonna raise this, or hey, this project will not fail, I will make sure that project will not fail, right? And so it's something that I think I've pushed myself to kind of create that mentality, but I hate giving up, and I think that's the single most important quality that I have. And so I'm not perfect, but I'll push myself to become perfect. And anyone who knows me can have faith in that. That if Sujay says he'll get it done, he'll find a way. He may not be perfect, but he'll find a way to get it done. So
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so how do people get in? How do people find you? Are you easily reachable? Like, are you too big time? Are you like, you seem like you got a lot going on all the time. So how does somebody kind of get in contact with you or be in your circle, in your space? Like, is there some way that they can follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beautiful thing about even people like you, Alex. Like your calls that you do, they're so engaging. Like you allow anyone to unmute themselves and talk and ask questions and pitch in. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And so no matter what, who you are, like get in touch, like would love to just to get to know you, even just hey, what's up? What's your background? And I would love to hear from everyone. And definitely get in touch with me. I think one of the easiest ways is Instagram. My handle is Sujay Mehta, so SUJMEHTA. So you
Yeah.
can find me on there, DM me. I respond to all my DMs. It might take me, a couple hours or a day, but I respond to all my DMs. And I would love to meet people, get in touch. So definitely not too big time. I don't think there's a such thing as too big time, because at the end of the
I
day,
love it. I knew you were
relationship.
gonna say that. I
Yeah.
set you up for it. You're welcome.
You set me
uh,
up.
yeah. So I want anybody to be watching the replay right now or watching this recording. Um, what resource can you share with them? Is there a resource that you can share with them? Um, what can you offer as a guidance for somebody that just might not be able to get around you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is obviously through social media, right? We're trying to educate, and we're trying to create awareness for specifically like hotels, and then also life, right? So definitely follow me on social media, and we are also in the process of starting some free webinars and boot camps, and then leading into maybe like a coaching program. Right now, I do like a partnership program, because a lot of people want to get into hotels and want to get into the brands. They need a little bit of leverage with the brands, and so would love to even partner or consult or whatever that may be to help people get started, and be able to use our brand and what we've created to leverage their own portfolio and their own dreams. So
Awesome.
definitely tap in on social media, and you'll see all the things that we're able to provide. And get in touch. I mean, a lot of it is going to be free, and just hop on, see what you can learn. Even if you're not trying to get into the hotel space, I'm sure you'll learn something that is useful in everyday life. So
Yeah, I didn't know I was gonna get into the hotel space, but apparently I am. So, last thing for anybody else out there, this is just open for you to decide. You know, I always say there's no accident somebody landed on this call to listen to this podcast right here, right now, and even made it all the way to this point. So, what would be your last message to somebody that's listening right now?
ooh, my last message. My last message is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get started. Don't be afraid to push yourself. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. And all these things that we can achieve, our potential, we're the only ones that are holding ourselves back. And, that's what I meant when I said we have 2 hands, 2 legs, just like Jordan had, just like Kobe had, just like Alex has, just like I have, and the Cardones of the world have. And so, don't be afraid to push yourself, whether that's to get out of, a certain toxic environment, whether that's to, push yourself in career, to push yourself in like your spiritual life, in your personal life, but push yourself and don't be afraid to do so. So, that's the last thing I would want to walk away with. And yeah, so hopefully one day you guys will push me too.
Yeah. Dude, I know that we're going to be hanging out soon. I know that we're going to be doing more things together. So I'm excited for the future of this relationship, and I'm excited to, co-create with you. And for all of you guys watching, thank you for listening all the way up to this point. And stay tuned for more amazing guests and guys like Sujay. And I'm just so honored that you were a yes to this. So thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
No, thank you so much. And everyone listening, you have to tap into this summit. Again, I posted this yesterday, but it's the only place where it's real estate, entrepreneurship, all of that, plus something more. And I haven't seen another platform that provides something more, right? And that X factor is going to bring beauty and life every day for us. And so, tap in. I think it's going to be amazing. Even if you don't tap in to listen to me, I'm sure all the other people will be great. And just to be around Alex. So, Alex, I love you, man. I appreciate you, and you're doing some
thank you
amazing
so much.
things.
Talk soon. With that, we come to the end of another powerful episode of the That Changed My Life podcast. We hope you've been deeply moved by the personal stories shared today, and that they have inspired you to reflect on your own life experiences. Change can be uncomfortable and challenging, but it's often the catalyst for growth and progress. Whether it's overcoming obstacles, taking risks, or embracing new opportunities, our lives are shaped by the choices we make and the moments that leave a lasting impact. I encourage you to take these stories to heart and reflect on how they can influence your own life. What changes do you need to make to become the best version of yourself? What pivotal moments have shaped your journey so far? How can you harness the power of change to create a more fulfilling life? Thank you for your continued support of the podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave a rating and review to help us reach more listeners and share these transformative stories with others. Follow me on Instagram at AlexLovely and use hashtag #ThatChangedMyLife. I look forward to bringing you more inspiring stories in next week's episode. Until then, keep embracing change, striving for growth, and making a positive impact in your own life. This is Alex, signing off.